I want to talk about um how Mandalorian like came to you. Like, how did Carson Teva like come to you? Did you audition?
No, no. It was an offer, um, which really blows my mind. You need to go back to 2018. Kim's Convenience was 2 seasons in. It was a critical darling in Canada. Audiences
Mm-hmm.
loved it. We were starting to make a little bit noise in the States, and I got invited to the Unforgettable Gala in Los Angeles. And the Unforgettable Gala is a celebration of Asian Americans in the media.
Okay.
And I got invited to go down, but I didn't want to go down by myself. I'd never been to LA before. I was kind of scared.
Really?
Yeah, I'd never been there before.
You had never been to Los Angeles?
No, no.
You live in Canada.
I know. It was
like
one
it's
of those.
like right there, Paul.
I know. And I'm an actor too.
Yeah.
It was a byproduct of having watched a number of supremely talented peers of mine go down for pilot season.
Yeah.
And work their asses off for like 2 months or 3 months and then come back to Canada with the tail between their legs, broke and shattered. And I thought, well, they're way better than I am and they're more skilled than I am. And, they're white. And what am I going to do if I go down there? Like, I have no money. What am I going to do? So I made up my mind that it's like the only time I'd ever go to the US to California, Los Angeles, is if I got a job down there. Because I thought, I'm working up in Canada. I've got steady enough work, not a ton, but I'm working, right? And, I'm a Canadian citizen, so it's a little bit easier for me up here. So yeah, that's the reason why I just never went down. There was just nothing for me there. And so that's why I was a bit terrified when I got this invite. And so I went down and—
Who did you take with you?
So I said, I'm not going to go down unless the rest of the cast gets to come down with me.
Okay.
Right. And so Yvonne Fetzon, who is the executive producer on Kim's Convenience, he very, very graciously sponsored everybody else to go down there. He paid for their tickets. And so we all ended up getting invites. He paid for our flights down there, hotel accommodations, which was awesome. Stayed at the Beverly Hilton. It was like, oh my God, I've seen this on TV. And it was just crazy sort of experience. And while we were there, this woman jumps in front of me and she says, Paul, do you remember who I am? It was Deborah Chow. Yeah. So Deborah's Canadian.
Is she really?
Yeah, she's Canadian, right?
I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah. And I met Deb 30 years ago now when we were both working for a bankrupt theater company in Toronto.
I love it.
She was there she was working as an arts administrator, and I was there working on a government grant to learn arts administration. But the theater went bankrupt. And so the season had been canceled. There was nothing to do. And so basically I was relegated to taking out garbage and repainting rooms and, doing all these really menial tasks. Anyways, Deb wanted to become a filmmaker, and she had asked me, said, hey, you want to be in the short that I'm shooting? I said, sure. Yeah, I'd love to. And so we shot One Day in Chinatown. I was playing this detective, this gumshoe detective who was looking for something. It was all MOS, so no dialogue.
God, that's the best job in the world.
Oh, it was so much fun, right? It was just, and then Deb left. She was gone, and I didn't see her till she jumped in front of me.
Really? You didn't see her for 30 years?
She disappeared. And so I was like, Deb, what are you doing? What are you doing here? She said, oh, you remember that film that got me to Columbia Film School? And then I tried to get a job as a director in Canada, and I did a couple of little shows, but then I went to the States, and then her career really took off. And then she said, so I'm working on the show called The Mandalorian. Have you heard of it? And I almost died because I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. I was like, you're kidding me? Of course I've heard of it. She says, oh, great. Because I've been trying to get in touch with you because Dave Filoni, do you know who he is? And I was like, yes, yes, I do. Dave Filoni is a big fan of your work from Kim's Convenience, and he wants to write something for you. And I was like, you gotta be shitting me. Like, come on.
Not only do they want you in it, they want to write something for you.
Yeah.
That must have been insanity in your mind.
I could not believe that. But at the same time, too, I also had the wherewithal to go, that's a lovely sentiment, but I know how the world works. And people say one thing and they do it with the best of intentions, but I know that the business has a way of screwing you over sometimes. And so, but it was lovely to be in that conversation, to even be considered. And I thought, oh my God. And I remember saying to her, you do realize I have like 9 cosplays, Star Wars cosplays at home. She's like, really?
You're like, I have action figures.
So I told her I was a member of the 501st Canadian Legion Garrison. And
are you really?
Yeah, I joined in like October of 2018 on my own because I'm a nerd.
Oh my God, the more I get to know you, the more I love you.
Yeah. So she said, show me these pictures. And I showed them to her.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm going to send these to Dave. She sent them to Dave. Dave responded and he, laughingly saying, oh, he can just wear his costume to work type thing. Anyways, she invited me to a set visit. And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. She said, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, I'm going back to Canada. And she said, oh, that sucks because, Dave really wants to meet you. And I was like, can I come back in a couple of weeks? She said, absolutely. So I came back 2 weeks later and I got to visit the set during season 1. I met Jon Favreau. I met Dave. I got to see Deb do some work. I got to see Dave direct an episode. I saw Grogu for the first time, like walking down the ramp in Pelimoto's. And I remember looking at and just losing my mind, going, what is that? What is that? And I remember Dave looking at me.
I can't believe they let you on set and all of that.
It was Dave who greenlit everything. Yeah. Like he was the one that got me through because, Disney they weren't letting anybody visit the set, but Dave got me in. And it was just like a tremendous experience. And just like, I thought I had died and gone to heaven, nerd heaven. That was it. And I was sworn to secrecy and I was like, no problem. I would rather die than ruin the surprise for anybody. Cause I knew that was going to break the internet. And I went home with a stupid grin plastered to my face. Had dinner with Dave. Dave gave me a guided tour of the costume shops, of the sets. I got to hang out with Josh in the props department and like geek out over like, heritage props that had been handed down from Return of the Jedi and stuff. And just like was in bliss. And then 6 months later, I got a call from my agent saying, so Lucasfilm called and then they want to know what your availability is.
Were your agents like, what's happening?
She was very much befuddled. She's like, well, what have you done? What have you done? Right? And it was incredible. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was for, but it was Lucasfilm. And I was like, I will burn down forests. I will kidnap pets. I will steal whatever it is I need to. I will do anything. And I was under the impression that I was going to be under 15 pounds of latex. One of those, we'll put him in an alien costume. He'll die.
Right. Dave's just doing you a solid.
He nerd just, tears. And it's like, I got to be on it. And then it was like, I found out later on that it was that we're going to see your face. And in fact, you're going to be a pilot. And I was done. I was just like, how did this happen? And then, going to the States for the first time, they got me my working papers to work on the show. Didn't have to audition, went down, met Carl.
Well, even the U.S. government doesn't say no to Lucasfilm.
Right? It's just, it was so fast.
Does he check boxes? Have you looked for Americans for this role?
Yes.
Sure. Great. He has his work permit. Come on down, Paul. Sure thing, Lucas.
I was just so blessed. And it was just like such a whirlwind. Meeting Carl for the first time too, because he was the first director I worked with in the States. So that's how the part sort of came. There was an availability. I think initially they had tried to, they'd offered the part to another actor. The story that I heard, they offered it to another actor who turned it down. And then it was actually John who said, well, what about your friend Dave? So...
Do you know who it was that turned it down? You don't have to tell me, but do you know who it was?
I've been told who it was. And
do you think they regret it?
I don't think so. I think...
Really?
Yeah, I think it's one of these things where they are very well established, which is why I think they were like, no, it's okay, right? And if you're not a huge fan of the series,
Yeah.
you know, they can't afford to pay. They couldn't afford to pay him what he's
No.
worth. And because it was like one of those, it's like, no, you know, I'll take a pass on it this time. It's like,
Yeah.
that's my game. I'm like, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll take that.